About to hear from there tonight.
Indeed, I did have a relationship with Miss Lewinsky that was not appropriate. In fact, it was wrong. It constituted a critical lapse in judgment and a personal failure on my part for which I am solely and completely responsible. I misled people, including even my wife. I deeply regret that.
This is MongolianMindset, and today we're going to be typing Bill Clinton. We got a lot of debate on what's his actual personality type. A lot of people believe he's an ESFP. I think that's very contrarian to the belief that, I think a lot of people don't know what the fuck an ESFP is. So we're going to be watching Bill Clinton today and see if he's an ESFP, okay? We'll be using Linda Barrens Interaction styles and temperament combined with cognitive functions. We do have a breakdown of all of the interaction styles and temperaments. Just go to the playlist, how to find anyone's personality type. We also have the cognitive functions broken down into one by one and all in one comprehensive video as well. So watch those videos if you want to be caught up to speed with how we do this. Okay, we'll be go check in to see what the monkeys over at Personality Database have, because bro, they're fucking retarded over there. Like, they're fucking stupid. They got Bill Clinton as an ESFP. Okay, so ESFP, that's wild. Let's go to the typing chart here. So ESFPs, right? They're formative, they're initiating, they're pragmatic, they're TEFI, they're SENI, they're concrete, and they're interest-based, right? They really care about living in the fucking moment, right? The moment's the most important thing to them. Everything else is not as important. They don't really care about their future that much or anything of that nature. They start a lot of things and don't finish anything. Okay, that's what an ESFP looks like. Okay, but we'll be breaking them down. We'll see what his actual personality type is. If we see ESFP, we have to call him ESFP. If you don't see ESFP, we have to see what his actual personality type is. Okay, and we will be putting those metrics here. Okay, once we get enough, we'll be going ahead and just put it down. Okay. So we got an interview right here.
45, 46, 47. Okay.
Well, Mr. President, let's start at the beginning. What was the most valuable
And I will say that his wife has typed him ENFP, and she typed herself INTJ. So it's going to be interesting to see. He ESFP, is she wrong? Let's see.
In your life that helped prepare you for the presidency?
Well, I think I would have to say being governor for a dozen years, because it's an executive job. You have to get along with people who differ from you.
It's an executive job. Okay, so I'm gonna hit that for TE, right? It's an executive job, so TE is attached to FI. So that's a TEFI statement there.
You have to pass legislation through a legislature that may be contentious. You have to set an agenda, cast a vision, and then try to lead people toward it.
Cast a vision and try to lead the people towards it. I'm going to say that's abstract, okay? I'm going to hit him for abstract on that. Go back. That seems abstract. Casting the visions. You got to remember, visions don't exist, right? Visions only exist after you do something. But when you visualize something, it does not fucking exist. That's the problem that people have in other spheres. They don't understand a vision does not exist until you do it, right? It could be in your head for fucking ever. Until you actually do it and make it concrete, it does not exist, all right? That's what stupid people in like stupid camps fucking see all the time. It's so frustrating.
Legislation through a legislature that may be contentious. You have to set an agenda, cast a vision, and then try to lead people toward it. And yet it's smaller than the presidency, and you don't have the Secret Service. You're not a long way from most of your constituents. You're not as isolated. So you have a feeling for the human impact of what you do. So
that's coming off a feeling. You have a feeling for the human impact. I can say that right now he's giving off diplomatic intelligence, right? So that's trying to build bridges amongst people, right? There's one specific personality type that really is strong with diplomatic intelligence, and that's the NFs, right? As in, when you're talking about strategic intelligence, that's the NT. When you're talking about tactical intelligence, that's the SPs. When you're talking about logistical intelligence, that's the SJ, right? He's talking about building bridges amongst people, getting everybody on the same page here. It seems like that's diplomatic intelligence.
So I think that in any given time, that's very valuable experience for the presidency. And in this time, I think it was especially important because of the moment in history where we're, moving into this global information age, and there's a lot of upheaval in the society, and a lot of what we need in terms of reform of our systems, whether it was economic or educational or welfare, is work that governors have been doing for quite a long while. So I think my service as governor in the 1980s, starting in the late 1970s, was very valuable.
Very valuable, FI, okay? He said another FI statement in there, but it doesn't matter. He's a TFI user.
Ahead briefly here. Was there one special moment when the enormity of being president hit you?
I could give a number of answers to that, I think, but the thing that springs to mind most readily was early in my term, my national security advisor and my military advisors came to me with evidence that...
So he's talking about what other people came to him with evidence for. That's a TEFI statement, right? That's other people's thoughts. That's other people's collections. That's empirical data, okay?
There was an attempt planned on President Bush's life.
Oh, yes, I remember that.
In the Middle East when he went back after the Gulf War, and that the evidence was conclusive that it had been ordered and supported by the Iraqi government. So I took an appropriate retaliatory action against Iraq, and the enormity of it struck me there because I knew it was something that had to be done.
Okay, so he's getting informative. He comes up very informative, okay? It's very passive, kind of wordy as well. Bill Clinton, I think, is informative. So we are looking at an ENFP here, I think.
Against Iraq. And the enormity of it struck me there because I knew it was something that had to be done. I did my best to have the targets against military operations that were involved in the plans against President Bush. And yet I knew that there could be mistakes and that other people could die as well. It was a difficult but important moment, and I think...
Difficult but important moment. All that's coming from an SI perspective there, okay? That's all SI. Go back and listen to it. It's all from his perspective, right? An
appropriate retaliatory action against Iraq. And the enormity of it struck me there.
The enormity of it struck me, SI.
I knew it was something that had to be done. I did my best, SI.
To
have the targets against military operations that were involved in the plans against the president.
I mean, you can even hit that for FI there. I did my best. I mean, TEFI.
Bush. And yet I knew that there could be mistakes. And that
I knew.
Other people could die as well. It was a difficult but important moment, and I think from then on I really understood and felt what it was like to have the power that the Constitution and the people give.
And I felt FI, the Constitution, yeah.
To the person who holds this office.
We have kind of bookends on that. Let's go back now and start where we were again and fill that out.
So let's go ahead and knock off TEFI for Bill Clinton here. He is a TEFI user for sure. So that eliminates all of the types that are not TEFI. So those TI users are gone. That means the SFJs, the STPs, SFJs, STPs, NFJs, and there's got to be someone else I'm missing here. NTP. Gone. They're gone. Goodbye.
There was a story about your second grade teacher. Did she really tell your mother that you would be president someday? And And then add to that, if you can, what was it in your early years that shaped your interest in politics? Is that a true story?
I don't know. She's still around, my second grade teacher. You could ask her.
Ask her.
She was always chiding me about talking too much in class, and I think she said that I would
Talking
either
too much in class. So that's usually a problem of the starter types, okay? Talking too much in class. That's usually starter type problems.
You could ask her.
Ask her.
She was always chiding me about talking too much in class, and I think she said that I would either have a great career in politics or wind up in a whole lot of trouble because I didn't know when to shut up. I think that's basically what she said. But I think what shaped my
Didn't know when to fucking shut up, right? Starter type shit.
early interest in politics were a couple of things. First of all, I was always interested in civil rights. And it
Always interested in civil rights. So that means that he has an affiliative thing, right? He cares about doing the right thing. He has an FI thing there as well. But I'm gonna hit that for FI and affiliative, right? He always had an inclination towards civil rights.
was the defining political issue of my childhood, starting when I was quite young, in the 50s.
Sure.
You hear that? My childhood, right? That's my childhood, not your childhood, not what's going on in childhood. That's SI.
And I think the other thing that really had a lot to do with it was the fact that we got a television when I was 9 years old.
I see.
Yeah, I was 9 before we ever had a television, and I got to watch
We were 9 when I got a television. See that? It's all about that SI experience there.
in
Watch
1956.
that. Watch that. Watch his eyes light up when he talks about that damn television.
Sure.
And I think the other thing that really had a lot to do with it was the fact that we got a television when I was 9 years old.
I see.
Yeah, I was 9 before we ever had a television, and I got to watch in 1956
SI.
the Republican and Democratic conventions
sure.
on television. Now, I'm not sure how many 9 and 10-year-old kids were watching it, but I watched it.
I watched it. SI.
I watched the whole thing,
I watched the whole thing. SI.
and I was utterly fascinated by it.
I was utterly fascinated by SI.
And I think probably those two things, more than anything else, sparked my early interest.
Did you watch that Kennedy move for the vice presidency?
I did. I
see.
remember it.
I wanted to tell you.
I remember it. SI.
I was in the Rose Garden when you met him.
In 63?
Oh, yes, I was covering out there. And I remember when Boyd's Nation came, and that picture has become so famous of you. What'd you feel?
Oh, I was elated. I admired Kennedy a lot, and I
Yeah.
very much wanted him to be reelected. And there was, at the time, there was a lot of support in our crowd, our group there for Goldwater,
Oh, I see.
who later became a friend of mine and,
Sure,
and who
yeah.
recently passed away, as you know. But
Giving a lot of extra information that wasn't part of the context there. Look at the way he delivers the extra information. Like, that's the important part. Like, look at the way he gives the extra information on that guy. It's like that's not part of it, but he has to give that extra information. It's also initiating.
at the time, there was a lot of support in our crowd, our group there for Goldwater,
Our group, our crowd, affiliative, the group.
I see.
who later became a friend of mine and,
Sure,
and who
yeah.
recently passed away, as you know. But I felt very strongly that Kennedy was good for the country. That,
I felt very strongly at FI. Good for the country.
that what he was doing was right.
What he was doing was right. Right and wrong is FI.
And I wanted him to be reelected. And I believed in the fact that he was sticking up for civil rights.
Yeah.
I believed in the fact that he was sticking up for civil rights. That's FI. That's affiliative, man.
When I had a chance to meet him, I really wanted to. And thankfully, we were lined up in alphabetical order by state. So I was from Arkansas.
You see that?
And,
this is all coming from his own personal experience here, right? You see, even when he's talking about meeting this guy, it's like, oh, we were lined up, and luckily I was there. Okay, I was there. Okay, that's all. SI there.
That Kennedy was good for the country, that what he was doing was right. And I wanted him to be reelected. And I believed
ENFP.
in the fact that he was sticking up for civil rights.
Yeah.
So that when I had a chance to meet him, I really wanted to. And thankfully, we were lined up in alphabetical order by state. So I was from Arkansas. And I also was bigger than most of the people around me, so I sort of elbowed my way up to make sure
I was able to bowl. I was bigger than everybody else. I got to bowl my way up.
if he didn't shake hands with everyone, I'd get to shake hands with him. And since then, I believe every year I've been president, I've met with the Boys Nation and the Girls Nation groups. And I've arranged it so that I could shake hands with all of them.
I've arranged it so that I could shake hands with everybody because I know the experience, okay? It's clear to see that this guy is an SINE user, okay? He's an SINE user. So TIFE, SINE, and then you hear that organization of people is a TE thing, right? TE users are good at organizing the environment, right? That's why we put in systems. That's why we put people in systems, because we're organizing the environment, okay? So TFISINE, so that automatically makes him either ESTJ, ISTJ, ENFP, or INFP, okay? And this guy's informative. He's giving extra information. Okay. So we either got, based off that, we either got ENFP or INFP right now. And he's a fucking ENFP. Okay. The only problem is it's going to be hard to figure out this guy's fucking Enneagram. It's going to be hard to figure out this guy's, all this other shit, because obviously he's prodigy level. I don't need nobody to say that he's prodigy level. But like finding a nice subtype, I'm like, is he dominant or is he normalizing? Going back and forth in between that.
I didn't want anyone to feel left out.
Can't remember.
I didn't want anyone to feel left out. There you go with your FE critic, they're helping out.
You shook your hand. People tend to improve their memories, but I can't remember it. But your concept that there was something special there is true. I fight this battle all the time when they say it was all myth and that. There was something very special at that
It was
moment.
very special to me. It meant a great deal to me.
It was very special to me. That's SI again. Listen. Very special to me. That's an SI statement, hardcore one.
True. I fight this battle all the time when they say it was all myth and that. There was something very special at that
It was
moment.
very special to me. It meant a great deal to me.
Yeah.
I'm sure to him it was just having another interesting day as president. But for me, it was quite important. It's
For me, SI.
not true. There's all this sort of myth that's grown up around it. That I came back from there determined to be president. I don't know that that's true. But I did have, in that week I spent here, and this is something I feel very indebted to the American Legion for. I
feel very indebted, FI.
In that week, an enormous sense that the people who wound up in the Congress, the people who wound up in the cabinet, the people who wound up serving the president, most of them were ordinary citizens who had a chance to do extraordinary things. And so when I went home, I had the feeling that if I worked hard and prepared myself and I continued to care about these matters, that I could have an impact. I did think that.
And care about these matters, that I could have an impact. That's FI, and that's an affiliative, okay? So, those types are automatically affiliative, but why didn't we knock that off? Like, you see that? He's affiliative. Like, bro, you got to do some thinking. You really think a president got to ESFP candidates? Bro, you got to be half brain dead to believe that. I honestly believe, like, when somebody tells me some shit, like, a lot of times I can just, like, if I have a general idea of someone type, like, or what they do or, like, what they've been through, it's like I already kind of know where they're going. Like, president, ESFP, somebody who lives constantly in the moment. Really, bro, really, people don't fucking think. People don't fucking think. And that's the great thing about coming to this fucking channel. We actually give you guys the truth. Is there people that I've mistyped? Yes. But I'll be fixing them in the future. But this is clearly not an ESFP. You have to be fucking brain dead to think that someone will make it to the White House as an ESFP.
And that was a gift I got out of that week.
I see. What were the crucial lessons about life and politics that you learned from your mother? Can you boil that down to a couple, three?
Oh yeah, I can boil it down easily. She taught me these things. Never give up. Never forget where you came from. and never lose your compassion for people who are less fortunate than you are.
That's engraved
Sound like
on
that
your
mom's affiliate.
mind. You know that, I see. Now, you were governor at age 32. That's awfully young.
Very young, maybe too young.
Yeah, well,
That's initiating there. That's initiating. Bill, you feeling yourself, Bill. You feeling yourself. I feel myself too, I ain't gonna lie.
And never lose your compassion for people who are less fortunate than you are.
that's engraved on your mind. You know that, I see. Now, you were governor at age 32. That's awfully young.
Very young, maybe too young.
Yeah, well, what was it like to be so successful
Initiating.
in politics at that age?
Well, I was thrilled, because I just 4 years earlier, I had actually lost a race. I ran for Congress in 1974 and was defeated. And then in 76, I was Attorney General, and I loved that job. But
Attorney General, more TE accomplishments, okay, TFI, those
a
FI.
vacancy occurred in the governor's race, and I went, and I won.
I.
Exhilarating. I loved it. I had so much fun. I brought in all these
I loved it.
smart people, and we went to work. And
I brought on all these smart people. Who brings in smart people around him? That's a T user. Man, this is so good. This is going to be the part that I fucking clip. Let's go back and get it.
So I was Attorney General, and I loved that job. But their vacancy occurred in the governor's race, and I went, and I won. And it was exhilarating. I loved it. I had so much fun. I brought in all these smart people, and we
T brought in all these smart people.
went to work, and we did a lot of things for the state. And I loved doing it. Now, 1980 was a very difficult year, and I was defeated for re-election.
Yes.
But it was also a hard year for my state. It was a bad year for the farmers. It was a bad year because we had the Cuban refugees from
Oh, yes, I
who
remember.
rioted. We had all kinds of. We even had a missile silo explosion. A Titan missile
I forgot
silo
about that.
exploded, and the warhead flew out in a cow pasture. So about everything that could go wrong in my state went wrong in 1980.
Yeah. What about that 80 defeat, though? Now, how'd you steel yourself? What'd you do?
I think it was, first of
internally?
all, I think it was good for me. It's like every other adversity in life. If you do survive it, you normally come out ahead. I think what happened to me was that I tried to do a great deal as governor, and we had only 2-year terms then. And I think I tried to do so much in so many areas.
I tried to do all this. It's all SI, bro. It's like I would be beating SI dead like a stick. Like if I had a pinata, imagine me with a pinata and that bitch would have SI on it, and I would just be beating the fucking hell out of it.
Some things I did were unpopular, and I didn't sell them
Some things I did was unpopular. That's TFI.
before I did them or as I was doing them. And when you run every 2 years, you have to make sure you do that. So I think the people of my state had
A
the
lot of extra information and informative.
opinion that I was a smart person who cared about them, but I was too bullheaded, and I didn't listen to them enough. And I also believe that
Are we doing any in the mid-sentence? We are doing any mid-sentence. We are doing any where we're talking and then we're going, oh, you know what? Any's got a different perspective. I got to shift. Verbal agility.
I mean, when you run every 2 years, you have to make sure you do that. So I think the people of my state had the opinion that I was a smart person who cared about them, but I was too bullheaded, and I didn't listen to them enough. And I also believe that,
You see that? Bop, head switch, any.
frankly, I was less mature than I am now. I think I didn't know as much about how to do things and how to deal with people, particularly under great adversity, and particularly when difficult decisions had to be made that involved maybe moving people out of the positions they were in or things of that kind. So I think that.
So what he's doing is he's acknowledging that he wasn't really particularly strong with TE, right? Moving people out of positions, all of that. He's acknowledging that has a little bit of problem with that. TE child.
Losing the election and then going out back across my state. See, I was very fortunate to be from a small rural state with a lot of small towns where people were very forthright. Because what I did after the election, after a few months, I went out across the state and I'd give a little talk somewhere. And
I did this, I did that. Come on, man. I told you, like, just imagine me with that pinata, man. Just imagine me with that goddamn
what I did
pinata.
after the election, after a few months, I went out across the state and
I did
give a
what?
little talk somewhere, and then afterward I'd go over to someone's house or meet in a high school gym, and I'd ask people what I'd done wrong, and they would tell me in great, stunning, brutal detail, in a good-natured way. And so I established, in a way, deeper bonds than I would have otherwise.
Talk
I went
about
to the
establishing deeper bonds. We're going back to that diplomatic intelligence. That's an NF thing, right?
defeat.
And he's
They told
initiating
me
all
what
this
I'd
shit.
done wrong. They then gave me a second chance to serve, and I think the service was, I know it was good for me and my family. I believe it was good for my state.
So he's talking about, I think the service is good for my family, and I think it was good for the state. That's the global interest there. It's a win-win. Man, I'm done with this guy, man. Right? Bill Clinton's ENFP. Like, I don't need to just go crazy on just like beating this crazy, but he's ENFP. I don't know who the fuck. I mean, congrats to Hillary Clinton. She got her husband's personality type right. Okay. Congrats to her. We'll be doing her. She says she's an INTJ. So we'll be typing her to see if she's an INTJ. But I mean, obviously, everybody loves Bill Clinton, bro. The most loved personality type is the ENFP. It is what it is. Everybody can hate on him. All right, so he's ENFP. And ENFPs are initiating, right? So they're very particularly weird personality type, because some ENFPs can be very initiating and some can be sort of responding. But at the same time, when they talk, that energy goes off and they want to like go from different subject to different subject, and they don't have no problem initiating those subjects, right? ENFPs are all about what if, right? The what could be, what's good for everybody, trying to get that abstract affiliative thing going there. They're interest and motive based. Like, they know what people get out of a situation, but they're global interest. They're not pragmatic interest. See, people don't understand that there's two types of interest: pragmatic interest and global interest. What's in the global interest is what's good for everybody long term, right? Pragmatic interest is what we get out of this situation here or soon. Okay, you got to understand these things when you're talking about typing people. So he's obviously got this global interest there. He's all obviously affiliative, right? Doing what's right. He wants to, even though obviously cheat on his wife, but that can happen to anybody, right? Especially like an SE or any user. Like, it is what it is. They always think about what could be, especially any user. What could be? What could be? What could be? So it is what it is. And with all that power, you got women throwing themselves at you, right? It's very easy to be faithful when nobody wants your ass, right? It's very easy, right? But when other people want you, it's a lot harder to be faithful. So he gets a pass in my book from that, because he's the president of the United States of America. Informative, so he beats around the bush. He's not direct, specific, concise, and to the point. He gives extra context. He will sit there and just give you extra information. Okay. ENFPs are journey focused, so they're all about the journey, right? They're not about the destination. Their main focus is, how do I get somewhere, right? Looking at the how to get to the goal, right? That's going to be progression, right? A lot of times it can look a little bit different from the direct progression types and the informative progression types. A lot of times the informative progression types kind of see themselves as the process, right? And getting everybody on the process works, while the direct progression is kind of like, I need to get the best process going forward. Like, they're going to be looking at the step-by-step, like with a fine-tuned fucking microscope, okay? A lot of times you see that, especially with the INTJs. I think by far they're the best at looking at the step-by-step to do that. So, like, let's say, for instance, if you wanted to buy a course by somebody, you should be making sure that it's an INTJ, because it's going to be step-by-step proven to get you where you need to go, right? You can fuck around and try to get like an ENFP or an ENTP's course, you're going to get fucked in the ass. But SINE, right? He's all about his own personal experience here. Very recanting that. He's got that verbal agility. He talks and just switch over to a different subject. And by my God, he's TEFI. I mean, that's obvious, right? So I got him. I'm gonna go what usually ENFPs are, and they're gonna be 7. I'm gonna go 7W6, right? For Bill Clinton, I'm gonna hit him with sexual because the ENFPs usually are sexual 7s, right? They see they go through life with a rose-colored glasses, like they just see life as just pure positives, right? That's kind of like Bill Clinton there. And then I'm gonna hit him for SO secondly. And a lot of times, I guarantee his wife is pulling the strings behind a lot of things, being what she is most likely an INTJ. So we got ENFP. He's obviously prodigy, so I'm just gonna hit pro for prodigy, and I'm gonna hit him. I could go dominant or I could go normalizing, and if I had to say, I would say that Tony Robbins is a dominant ENFP. I could say that he's dominant ENFP, but I feel a little bit better going normalizing, because you need to be really, really good with being conventional to be president, right? There's so many things that could go wrong with you getting to presidency that you have to be very part of the conventional ways of life. And he was Attorney General and all that type of shit. Dominant may have a little bit harder time doing that. So I got to hit him for that. And yeah. So this is Mongolian Mindset. And we got Bill Clinton for ENFP, 7W6 sexual, prodigy level, and normalizing. And we are out.